Toque Talk. Toque
Talk. Toque Talk Tuesday. Toque Walks. Toque Talk Tuesday. Toque Talk. Toque Talk Tuesday. Toque. Oh yeah. Toque Talk. Toque Talk Tuesday. Toque Walks. Toque Talk Tuesday. Toque Talk. Toque Talk Tuesday. Toque.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Toque Talk, episode 58. Oh,
It's
what's going on with Todd?
It's a fourth wall experience we're happening right now.
Wait a minute. Where did Todd go? Okay, so
This
disclaimer.
is the Toque Talk with
There
Corey,
he is.
explain what's
Okay.
going on here.
Disclaimer, Darren is not with us today, so I'm left with the controls. I've never done this before, and I don't know what happened there, Todd, but that was pretty awesome.
I played that and then it said you've been removed. I assume that maybe I broke some kind of
Because you instead of looking like you, it was the video, the intro video playing.
because I was doing this.
Oh, okay. That's why I removed you, because I thought we were having a problem.
Isn't it funny? Look at how delayed it is. It's so funny to watch.
Oh yeah.
I like watching this once in a while just to see the crazy attempt to try and put subtitles under us.
What about the comments? Can you see them, Todd, there? Because, Corey, you said you can see them. We
I
usually
can
miss
see-
out.
I can see them.
But I think the guy who's running the show has to control all that.
That's
No,
Darren. But what
I
if-
can actually turn them on for everybody, but I need my damn glasses to read them.
Oh, boy.
You got to get the chain. You got to get the canasta.
Exactly. I need the
I got this too, but
the librarian chain.
Chain.
Hey,
Mine
how
is
about
that's
the
a good,
Knights?
that's a good thing to have.
Oh, go
Oh, yeah.
Knights.
Big game
Jeez
tonight.
Louise, the Knights,
We're
yeah.
only going to talk about the future. Let's not talk about the past. So, big game tonight.
What is
Yeah.
what is that at now? I'm so bad at this.
So, we're tied.
2-2. Yeah.
Yeah, tied 2-2. And the game tonight's in Colorado for the Knights.
That's right,
And
that's right.
so Vegas. But, yeah, Todd, we should go to the game this week. When is
Maybe
it?
you know that.
Today's Tuesday, so maybe Thursday. We should go to a game together.
I
Right.
think so. It's got to be like a hot ticket.
Yeah, I'm jealous because Frank Sidoris has been going. Our other
Really?
friend,
I
guitar
know.
player in
The guy that didn't even know what
Flashback.
hockey was 5 years ago is now like at every game.
That's not
That's
fair.
all
what hockey was. I knew what hockey was.
It's his team because he's local, born
I
and
know,
raised,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the team is
No.
born and raised. So yeah,
He's
cool.
he's very spoiled to have a team that has performed so well since its inception. I mean, that team is just a very good team. What are you going to say? It's a great team.
Yeah. Yeah. The real reason Darren isn't here is because he's still hasn't gotten over last night. The Jets
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, that's rough.
losing the in 4 games straight, right?
I thought we weren't talking about the past, Corey.
I'm
Brent's
silent.
not going to talk about the past, but I want to talk all of it.
yeah.
No, I wanted the Jets to win, obviously.
Yeah, that was rough.
It happens. My Capitals
happened.
were out like a long time ago, so
Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
yeah.
So
All I
now
can
it's-
comment on is the greatness of the crowd factor for Colorado. Well, most of the team, I think all the U.S. teams have a almost full capacity. Knights for
Mhm.
sure. The last 2 games, full 19,000 people. So good
Wow.
for hockey. Good for the people here that Todd and I are in Vegas right now and that get to enjoy the games.
Mhm.
Hopefully everything's safe and they're enjoying some hockey. God
But
bless.
I heard today there was our good friend Kathy Kennedy from in Winnipeg, who
Yes.
is always in the know with the news because she's with CGOB. She said something about today there's a lifting of the provincial quarantine between provinces in Canada.
Okay.
So I hope I'm
Yeah.
not speaking out of context here, but I'm told that there was, I didn't even know that you couldn't go between provinces. So
yeah, I
that's
think
right, yeah.
Ontario had shut off both Quebec and Manitoba.
right. So I guess
At
that's
one
being
point.
lifted. And there was talk today of a vaccine passport to
Okay.
alleviate when you come back to Canada, you could actually show that passport because you have a vaccine, and then you can come back to, I guess you could go to Vegas and you could come home and you wouldn't have to quarantine.
Did they say a date as to when that could possibly,
I-
like when people could come down here?
I heard later this month.
Oh, killer.
That would
I
be
mean,
amazing.
Does that mean we can go up there?
Well,
As soon as I
yeah.
can go up there, I'm out of here. Yeah. Well,
We have we can't announce it yet because we'll let the gig itself announce it, but we all, as you guys know, we have a date in Canada in August. So
that's right.
you know, that all that news today is beneficial for all of us. Oh,
Fully vaccinated Manitobans. That's a great name for a band, by the way. FVM are playing tonight at the.
that's great.
That would be a great name. Can now travel without having to self-isolate for 2 weeks upon return to the province with a new immunization card
Mhm.
that will be available to people 2 weeks after receiving their second dose. Makes sense. And in addition to the travel benefit, I'm reading this because we have an audio podcast too, and if we were just silently reading it,
Mhm.
fully vaccinated Manitobans will also be allowed increased visitation at healthcare facilities if both the patient and visitor are fully vaccinated. Yeah, I mean, it's what's happening in the U.S. The vaccines work. Get vaccinated. Everybody can go back to normal, and we can start playing shows and go visit our families, right?
Exactly. I'm looking
So
forward to. I haven't been to Canada. Well, none of us. Well, Fitzy was up there for a while, but I haven't been to Canada in. It's got to be pushing 16 months now, 15 months at least. Yeah, it's bananas.
Well, all of us together were in Regina, right, in
Regina,
March.
Saskatchewan. Yeah, for Telemiracle in March of last year. But
That's right.
yeah, but I haven't seen my family since the Christmas before 2019.
Yeah.
Oh.
Holy.
So yeah.
We should make mention of one of our previous guests got inducted in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. John Arden.
That is true. That is absolutely
Oh,
true.
that's so great. That was
Isn't that
Juno's,
awesome?
right? Was that this weekend?
Junos, yeah, exactly. Yep.
How is that not? How has that not already happened? I'm actually.
I
when
know.
heard
Well,
that, I assume that was old
She
news.
seems
I
to
mean,
think it's happened too soon because she says, I'm too young
Right.
to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. But
Uh-huh.
honestly,
Oh,
it's nice for a change that a person doesn't have to die to be honored.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems to be happening a lot with that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame down here and all that kind of stuff too, where it's like, oh yeah, we should put those guys in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, bands like Deep Purple or whatever the long list of Eddie Trunk's complaints. Let's call him right now. We'll talk about this for 4 hours.
Exactly.
UFO is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is some bullshit. But yeah, no, Jan certainly deserves to be in the Canadian Hall of Fame. Like I said, I'm surprised she wasn't already there, but there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But she's such a great person. Obviously,
She is.
anyone who's seen her on our show knows how gracious she is.
Twice. And
Yeah,
a
twice.
hell of a Canadian Jeopardy player.
Oh yeah, she's very good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very
I
good.
think she was my partner, wasn't she? I can't remember how that
No, she was my partner.
Yeah,
I
that's
couldn't
right.
answer anything right except for the other teams.
Yeah, it's always that way, isn't it? Yeah, it's like the other team, you're like, I know this. Why can't
Yeah.
I get that yet?
It's almost time for Jeopardy again. We've had it.
Yeah, well, don't expect
a
it
break.
today because I'm just barely
No.
hanging on with all these controls that I got to do. And so
Nice
I know,
job,
I know.
Corey. Nice
But,
job.
You're
you
doing a
know,
good job.
I'm able to do this.
Hey,
You're
hi,
awesome.
Ellie.
Hi, Ellie.
Or
Hi,
Eli. I'm not
Eli,
sure.
yeah. it's
Yes. Gloria agrees with us.
Hey, yeah.
Gloria, hi.
Gloria from Edmonton. I think she's from Edmonton, isn't she?
She's from the Hat, Medicine Hat.
Oh,
Hat.
okay. There you go. I got fired from Medicine Hat once.
Oh,
Did you really?
Yeah.
tell the story.
My band, me and Kurt Dahl from Age of Electric, and our pre-Age of Electric band, we played one of those kind of week-long cover gigs, and we played Monday, and then it was like, don't bother coming back tomorrow. It was the last week of that band too. It was like one of those kind of like, this is the last week. We're gonna go out to Medicine Hat, play this last week of shows, and then go home. And I just remember riding the Greyhound back with Kurt to Regina,
Oh.
like, oh well. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? We get to go
Everybody
home.
gets fired at least once, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There and Banff. Those are the only two places
Yeah.
I've ever been fired from. Banff, we got fired because we became an original band. We were doing our own thing, and then we started getting hired for these like kind of, do you guys know any Tragically Hip? No, we only know our own songs now. So that didn't last very long either.
And that's why my band got fired, was because we tried to play our original set. We're like, we want to play, the first set's got to be totally original, and then
Right.
after that will be a jukebox,
Right.
And
Those were weird times in Canada because
Yeah.
all the clubs that we played were all top 40 bands. Like everybody was meant to play. I'm sure Frank, our guest, might have some thoughts on this back in his early days, because I came up playing like high school dances and weird things like that, and it was always Summer of '69 and the same old Rebel Yell or whatever, a lot of the same songs that bands play now in cover gigs. They're still were with those songs we played back then.
Yep.
But it was Rebel Yell, but before there was Moni Moni.
Moni Moni. That was definitely a high school dance song.
We're here for a good time, and I think our guest is going to know something about that.
We're here for a good time.
That was always the last set song.
Raise a Little Hell.
Raise a Little Hell.
General Hand Grenade. There was a million songs by Trooper that were, you could just slay with those songs over and over and over again.
Yeah, totally. We should, just before we get our guest on, we should just mention Shane, because he's not here either today.
Who? Just kidding.
He goes missing so often. It's like, we do miss
Just
Shane.
kidding.
He is out and about today, and I'm sure he'll be back next week.
He's always having adventures. I never know what he's up to.
He's definitely having an adventure. I think he's like in some national park somewhere.
Probably.
I had my turn a couple weeks ago, and now it's his turn.
Yeah,
did,
sure.
yeah.
And Darren is also having a great time by the lake.
Yeah.
Because Winnipeg
nursing his Winnipeg Jet wounds.
Yeah, exactly. Because Winnipeg is getting their day of summer today.
As they should. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do it. Should we get our guest on? Anything else?
Absolutely.
Well, we haven't had a representative from Trooper on the show in over, the year that we've been doing this. So it only seems fitting that we hear about Trooper stories, right?
Is Trooper in the Canadian Hall of Fame?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm about to raise hell if that's not the case.
How much?
Just gonna like be like
a lot or a little hell.
I'm gonna raise a lot. I'm gonna raise a lot of hell. I'm gonna raise a little hell. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So the funny thing is, until about maybe a year ago, I didn't even know Trooper had two singers. Two lead singers, like they all sang like birds, and that's why the harmonies were so great. But I didn't know there were two lead singers. And so I thought it was the same guy singing all the songs until I went and looked at some old videos, from the past, from the 70s and when Trooper did a reunion with all the original members. I got to see, like, In the Moment That It Takes and Round We Go, and realize how amazing the keyboard player was at singing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's if you listen to those videos, he's such a great singer, perfect pitch, and such a rich resonance to his voice.
Totally.
Yep. And he's done a lot of stuff since Trooper. He's fronted his own band. That was really kind of cool to see. Body Electric.
They're great. Yeah.
And Mark LaFront's playing drums.
That's right.
Who was also on the show. Yep, exactly. So without further ado, let's get Frank Ludwig on. Come on in, Frank.
Hey,
look at that.
Nice
Boom.
to see you.
Yes. Good to see you.
No, the old Troopettes have not made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh,
It's a source of, quite a lot of people, think we ought to be. And, but, that's the way it goes. But luckily, we're all getting close to death, and so maybe posthumously we'll get in there. Oh, gee.
Well, I don't know if I like
wrong
the
if
sounds of
Trooper
that.
isn't in the Hall of Fame. How many hits did you guys have?
Well, I know at least 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Pretty decent, and a couple of them have hung around and still get airplay, so it's kind of nice. At the end of the day, people are still getting enjoyment from the songs, and that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
It's more important. And I actually missed out on, the band missed out on everything. We got nominated 75, I think it was, for Best New Band.
Yeah.
And the Junos. And everybody was coming up to us as we're sitting at the table. Oh, you guys, congratulations. You guys are just the best. And then, so when the winner of the Best New Band is, we're all sort of getting ready. And it was a duo who weren't even a band. They were some Toronto session guys, and they had done a cover of the theme to an American TV show. And they just covered it. But because was well known. It sold a lot, I guess. And they said, well,
Sure.
Anyway, they won. And there was it was almost the entire room kind of went,
Wow.
So we didn't get that one. And you only get one kind of kick at that can, unless you're Burton Cummings, because he won for Best New Singer
Right.
about 10 years after the Guess Who. So
Sure,
that was,
yeah.
flew in the face of history. And of course, then the next one was 79. And Trooper did win Best Band or something.
Yeah.
Or Best
Group
Album
of the Year or something like that.
Yeah, group of the Year. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
And of course, the funny thing about that whole thing, I'm sitting at home watching the show, and they get up there, and Rob Deans was my replacement after I left, and he says, "I want to thank Frank Ludwig for his Juno," which I thought was hilarious.
I heard he got booed too.
He did get booed. Yeah, there was kind of like, "Oh,
Oh no.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I talked to him years later when he left. I said, so Rob, why'd you decide to leave Trooper? He says, oh, pretty much for the same reasons you did. Like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. Anyway, but so he's got my Juno somewhere.
Aw.
So it's
Well, that's some BS. You got to go take that thing back.
Oh, speaking of which, I got a major complaint about you guys. I got to make.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great.
Oh yeah, I might as well get right into it here. Well, you have to realize that for Trooper, another area of sensitivity is this whole toque business. And what you have to realize, you wouldn't know in a million years this, because you didn't intentionally do this to insult us. But the deal is, Hot Shots at the time was the biggest selling album in Canadian history.
Yeah.
And you know what beat us? Finally sold more than us. The dog.
Sorry, say that again. Who beat you? Bob and Doug. Oh,
With their damn toques.
Oh yeah.
Outsold Hot Shots. So
That record outsold Hot Shots?
it did.
Oh my God.
Mind you, years later, everybody did. Adams and Loverboy and on and on. Sold more. But but in our day, of course, there were only 15 people in Canada. So to sell 500,000 copies.
15 people, yeah. Every person owned a copy of Hot Shots. So that
Yeah.
I think it's one of the greatest album covers. I still remember it as a
Totally.
kid. Like it's killer. Like the logo and just the whole design actually is a pretty cool
Well,
album
that
statement.
was an actual AR-15, so that album should have done a lot better in the U.S. That was an anti-gun comment, guys. Just sorry.
I got it. I got that.
Never shy away from the politics. Yeah,
it was
exactly.
before its time. It was before its time, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Hey, where are you right now, Frank? Where's home for you? are you squatting in someone's house? Where are you?
Yeah, well, rock guys can't afford our own place. No, I live in a place called Tsawwassen.
Oh, okay. So you're down there. Yeah.
Starts with a
for all
T,
your-
right?
Yeah, for all your TSAWWASSEN.
I know it
You know?
well because I used to take the ferry over to Bowen Island all the time when my family was living over there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have a place on Pender Island.
Oh, yeah.
You do the milk run, you leave Tsawwassen, and you hit Galliano, and you hit Maine, and then you hit finally Pender. It's the milk run. And every so often, when I'd be coming back from Pender, also the next stop on the milk run was Salt Spring, and so I'd come back to Vancouver, and there would be Bill Henderson from Chilliwack, and he'd be coming over to do a gig, and so we'd get to chat for a little while.
That's great. Yeah, that it's funny. A lot of my friends are now living Main Island, Pender. Like they just love the island thing. Al from Prism's out there somewhere on some island. I don't even know where the hell he is, but
Maybe Jim Valance too.
Valance probably. Yeah.
I thought he was still in Vancouver, but what do I
He
know?
probably has a place in Vancouver still, I'm sure. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's true. Yeah, we were going to retire there, but for my wife needs to be closer to doctors, so that dream that didn't pan out. But
So we can actually. Are you telling me as a musician I can actually retire someday? Is that what you're telling me?
oh well, I taught school for 20 years.
That'll do it.
I've got a pension. Yeah,
There you
nice.
go.
Nice.
Wow.
mind you. You know what? I I actually got $14 from streaming services this past.
That's a case of beer or something. Isn't it?
No, not that much.
You can get Netflix for a month on
Haven't
that.
bought beer lately, eh?
Yeah. No, I have not bought beer lately. That's amazing. So what was I going to say? So I guess you remained always kind of West Coast guy then, because you grew up out there as well, right?
Well, I spent a little over a year in Toronto.
Okay.
With a band called Brutus.
That's
And
right.
yeah.
We had a song, Mama, Mama, you sure look good to me. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That was the first song I was ever involved in that actually got on the charts and stayed there for a little while.
That's so cool.
Pretty
Frank, that was
exciting.
awesome. I just got to say that was just awesome just now. Can
Yeah,
you do darling, darling?
Yeah. Darling, darling. No, that's all I know. No. See, what's really funny, because I've been doing a bunch of these things, and on my website, I did an acoustic guitar version of Round Round We Go, which was kind of fun because I'm not much of a guitar player, so it took me a little while. But what was neat about it is I had always wanted in the song to actually have a round. So I had round, round, we round.
Oh, yeah.
Round. So I was able to do that. And then what the next thing I did, I think it's on YouTube. I thought, I want people to know a little bit about how songs come about. This is sort of the teacher in me. And so I actually did a version with the original lyrics. And we just had, was just mentioning to Corey that I'm doing we haven't launched it yet, but we've been collecting pre-recorded, I guess you call it a podcast. And the show is going to be called Jules Rules. And because the host is, although I'm the techno host, she's the host, is Julie Brown, who was a radio person for years out of Toronto and Vancouver, as was our other co-host, a guy named Otis Gyrie, engineer and radio guy. And anyway, and now I'm completely lost what I was going to on about. Oh, well, that's what happens when you get into your 70s, guys. I'm warning you.
I'm way ahead of you then.
And it wasn't from over medication or anything.
You were just talking about versions of your songs with acoustic. And
So thank you. Well, so we had Howie Victors on, who was from the Collectors back in pre-Chilliwack.
Right.
Yeah, and he had a song, which I don't know if you'd ever heard, we called "Look at a Baby, What Did You See? What did you see? Looking at a baby." And then this great line, "I can see the world the way that I would like the world to be." And I was telling him that when I wrote Round Round We Go, I had "Looking at a Baby" in my head, and my original lyrics were basically about the circle of life. And it was, did you ever see a young child openly accept all the world he sees, trying so hard to please? Once in a while I stop to ask why. Where do the children go? Too soon they're growing old, and I feel my head is spinning round. Round, round we go.
Round, round we go.
Round we go. Oh, darling, darling. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And
wow.
And so that was the original. And then as we were, it looked like it was going to go into pre-production. I'd be driving. Now Trooper would rehearse out in Langley, in this shed or garage or whatever you call it. And I thought, that's a little schmaltzy. Maybe I'll make it a little about a relationship that's kind of going nowhere. And so I did change up the lyrics. But now when you ask me to sing Round Round We Go, I kind of automatically go into, the thing about the children.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. That's
so
amazing.
So interesting. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear because it puts a totally different spin on it, but it's really, really cool. Like,
and what came out, of course, was like, I kept the
so cool.
the chords the chords stayed the same.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
so
wow.
interesting. Yeah.
Just
In and out.
yeah.
Got me singing, man. That song is so good. I
That's
think
such a great song.
I think it's the best Trooper song, to be honest.
It's a really well written song for sure.
You have very discriminating ears. It's sort of funny because years later, it's kind of like I think I'm writing better stuff now, but of course, I don't have a record label. I don't have a manager. I don't have anything except my own dreams. What is it? The dream never dies, just the dreamer. It's gonna anyway.
Yeah.
You're probably
There you
missing the black leather pants too.
There you go.
They're still hanging in the closet. I never throw anything away. The lining is all kind of rotted out, but I can get them on one leg. It's like, my waist was about like that in those days, and now it might. As Benny Hill used to say, he'd sit at the piano and say, "Oh, 3 octaves."
So how does that work? I always wonder this as a piano player because when you actually are a skilled and learned piano player, which I'm assuming you probably started at piano as a child, and you get like this.
I didn't start till I was 9.
Okay.
Which is an old child. And the reason for that was when I was 6, my uncle, who in Edmonton owned the big record store, or not record, sorry, a music store in there. It was called Robinson and Sons. Something went, UFO went by. That was weird.
Tic Tac.
They've landed in Tawasin, maybe. He gave me an accordion when I was 6.
Wow. Okay.
And I couldn't lift it. It was too heavy.
Sure.
And so nothing happened. And then finally, when I was 9, I think my parents said, "Well, until you're big enough to lift the accordion, would you like to take piano?" And I said, "Oh, okay, maybe." And I didn't really want to do that. So they said, "Well, how about you do group lessons?" So I actually, at that time, we were living, I'd grown up in Chemainus, but we were living for 2 years in Vancouver, and I would bicycle down to this group lesson, and it was okay because there was about 6 of us who didn't want to learn to play piano.
A collective.
Yeah, it was we had something in common.
Yeah, exactly.
I can still remember I would bicycle. It was in Kerrisdale, which is a part of Vancouver, and I would ride my bike. It was cool. I had the little streamers out the handlebars.
Sure,
and
yeah.
Quite often you detach a clothes peg with a playing card on the wheel.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I was a happening dude. Anyway, so I'd go off to that. And one time I'm coming back from my lesson. I'm just turboing, and I see this guy off to the right, a kid, and I said, he looks kind of suspicious. Hey, he throws a stick. And it goes right through the front wheel and it jams on the forks. And so I'm going along this way, just a complete flip.
Oh my God.
And I get up and I'm scraping the pavement off my face. I see the kid disappearing around the corner.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize I was in such pain I wouldn't have killed him because I couldn't have caught him. So I think I went home and said, "Do I have to go to piano lessons?" Anyway, so then when we moved over to Chemainus, I did start taking proper piano lessons, and by the time I was 16, I was pretty good. In fact, I took a year out after grade 12, and then went into music at UBC, and I could play classical music pretty well. I mean, I never up to that point. My whole deal was if I have to practice, I'll do an hour a day, but I'm going to get up in the morning, wake up the entire household with my practice so that after school I can go play with my friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Get it done early.
You've got to have your priorities right.
Yeah.
Totally.
That was the same in my household. Practice first thing in the morning so you could do, go to hockey or whatever and after school.
So as a skilled piano player though, is it interesting? The thing that interests me is when suddenly there's rock and roll in a 1-4-5 kind of like, it must seem so like rudimentary in and of itself when you decide that you want to play in a rock band or something like that. Is it a whole other thing? Because I don't really play keyboards. I always find it like you're kind of like a 6th degree black belt and you're going to go like run around with some yellow belts. Kind of feels like.
That makes you a teacher. Well, the interesting thing, of course, is the thing that did the transition for me, because I was, my sister was 4 years older, and so it was like she was getting into the rock and roll and stuff, and it was like, I better be there. I'm doing the. Well, actually, I used to, Beethoven. Rock and stuff. But anyway, and then the two songs that triggered me to think, the first one was Honeycomb by Richie. No, Richie Valens. Honeycomb by, I forgot it. But anyways, the Lord made the bee, and the bee made the honey, and the honeybee looking for a home. It's honeycomb. Anyway, for some reason, I just like the way the words kind of flew up. And then the one that really did it was Jailhouse Rock.
Sure, yeah.
Elvis.
Yeah. And so I was kind of getting primed, and then what happens is the Beatles came out. It was like, I'm gone. This is it. So immediately, being, as you mentioned, a reasonably experienced keyboard player, I took up the guitar, and it never occurred to me in my first band to play piano. And it's just as well, because have you ever tried lifting an acoustic piano?
Yeah. That's not
besides which, when our first band, we would do our gigs, and we would all travel. And by this, I had my parents' Morris Oxford. Now, you know what a Morris Minor, that little car?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They had a Big Daddy one, which was the Morris Oxford, and we would get the drum kit in there, the four of us, and our PA system, everything in that one car. So can you imagine? So there was no way a keyboard was going to go in there.
No,
And so I play guitar, and my first and how I got my guitar, of course, is I traded in the accordion.
Oh wow! The accordion started the journey in the first place.
There's an accordion in every family in Canada, though. Everybody had an accordion, right? Like somebody played it.
Well, guess what I just bought recently, and I got it through a friend who said, are you interested? I got a MIDI accordion.
Whoa!
Oh wow!
Which I'd always wanted to know, what is it? Does it work off the buttons, or does it work off the keys, and just be a monophonic thing? And I haven't got it yet because he went into the hospital, and it's sitting in Victoria.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of looking forward, because I'll tell you what I do have. You'll notice, by the way, I can't stay on one track or something. That's partly age, or it could be ADHL. Attention deficit Ludwig. I think that is. Oh, by the way, you guys, speaking of which, you guys were talking before you let me on about fully vaccinated being a good band name. I thought my new band will be called One Shot Ludwig. I've had my first Pfizer shot. Anyway, okay, so back to what we were talking about. So the guitar is
you sold your accordion for your first.
Yeah, I got this thing. It was a K guitar, which of course is right up there with. Yeah. What do you mean? Yup. Have you ever seen a K?
Everybody has a K. I have a K in my closet right now.
Almost everybody all the old rock and rollers always talk about K guitars. They were fairly affordable. I think they might have been Japanese, weren't they?
I don't know, but maybe mine was $45.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, and it was like playing a 2x4. The strings, the strings were like 6 feet off the frets.
Oh no!
And I know it. Of course, in those days, and you guys are so young'uns wouldn't know. Nobody knew anything in my time, so nobody knew how to play guitar. So the very first song we learned, and of course this is how the mind works, was a song called Wild Weekend. And it's a sax solo. Da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, bum, ba-da-da, sax solo. Anyway, so I learned that. So I'm playing the whole melody on the E string. Bink, 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 bink. And of course, the strings are so far off the frets, and I'm having to smash them down. My fingers would be bleeding.
Oh, man.
And the strings would break. So every time, I spent more time practicing replacing the E string. because nobody, it didn't occur to go dee da da across the frets, right, or across the
Right.
strings. It's like
Yeah.
nobody told us that.
Right.
Anyway, so it's really pathetic. Anyway, so I finally got rid of it, and I played guitar, in that first band, and then when I went over to Vancouver to as I say, I took a year out after grade 12 because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then I went to first year music, and I got in a band that was based out of Richmond, and at that point it was like, oh, I should play keyboards, and so I got it was very cool, a Vox Super Continental.
Awesome. Those are
You
great.
guys ever seen those suckers? Yeah, and of course, the reason I got it was nothing to do with its keyboardness. It was because Mike Smith of the Dave Clark Five played that.
There you go.
There you go.
And first of all, it had nice chrome legs, which came apart, and so it was portable, and it wasn't too big. But what was really cool is the color of the keys was reversed, so the black notes were white and the white notes were black.
Yes.
And it's like,
Cool.
oh yeah. Oh, I wish I still had it. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. See, the mind goes back and forth. What I do have in my studio, which I can't bring it in. Too bad I don't have a separate camera. I have a piano organ.
Oh, wow.
Made by Farfisa, and what it is, it's an accordion that has, and it's quite loud, noisy, because it has its built-in suction, and it has the keys like an accordion, and then a little thing about the same length as a melodica, and I've actually used that quite a lot. In fact, it's on the last song I put out is just about 2 months ago now. It was a song called "The Day They Closed the Old Mill Down."
Right.
I saw that.
And and that actually has the piano organ in it, and I use it for things like if I'm doing kind of Celtic or stuff that from Nova Scotia.
Sure,
I use that, and it's sort of a cross between an accordion and I'm trying to think what one of those other instruments is, or like a whatever. And so I use it for sort of Canadiana music, and it's really neat. So I have that. No, what were we talking about? Oh, it's gone.
It doesn't matter.
Let's go back to when you decided you wanted to play in rock bands, and you said that you, you started to touch on that. But how did it all lead up to getting in with True?
The Beatles, I suppose, is probably what kind of kicked that off. I guess.
And Elvis, right?
Well, and still to this day, the sense of melody, and also just the subject matter. It's like I know love is universal, and how does that usually work out? Which makes for country, and as a matter of fact, one of my new songs is called "Is This Blues Enough for You?"
I love it. I love it.
And it says, do I need more dirt underneath my fingernails? Do I need more sweat on my brow? Should I pay a debt to society by spending a night in jail or something like this? And should I call the governor on the telephone saying, please, won't you set me free? My dog has died, or something or other, and my dog has died, and my cat is stuck in a tree. Is this blues enough for you, baby?
That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat tune, and Mick Delavincenzo played the lead guitar solo on it.
Nice.
And cool. it's very a lot of fun. Yeah. So I like to write stuff with a bit of a sense of humor, and also maybe just a kind of a different kind of subject matter. I've written love songs. Back to You, which is on the Flying Colors album. Yeah.
Right.
Here we go. How can I get from here to where you are tomorrow?
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Flying Colors. That's a great
Well,
record.
thank you. Yeah, that particular song kind of shows where my mind is at, because it wasn't so much about coming back to you, but it was wordplay, and so that song was kind of inspired by My Fair Lady, the musical, because in there's a thing where it says the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain, and he's trying to teach this whatever side of London girl to sound proper.
Right.
And so I love that onomatopoeia or whatever that is. So in the lyrics to Back to You, well, also there's a line in there that refers to another detour here. When you're on the road, you're bored, especially in those days, the trooper days in the 70s there, no phones, no video games.
No.
So you're just sitting there and if you read, you'll get sick, for the motion of the vehicle.
Right. Yeah.
So you're basically sitting there thinking, "Oh, this stretch from Drumheller to Medicine Hat is really a stretch,"
No, I know.
And of course, and then you have lots of time to think, "Why am I in a van the next 12 hours with people who I really do not like?" And I used to, in the early days, I'd be driving along and I was, about 98 pounds and had no money for food. We'd play the clubs and I'd go, what I'd do is I'd be away from home. So, we were making big bucks, 75 a week. So
Right.
I would send 70 home for the family to pay the bills. And
Wow.
I would do $5 a week. And so what I would do is I would buy one package of Carnation instant breakfast and a quart of milk. And I would try to make that last at least 5 days. And then I'd go into the club at night and they would have peanuts on the table.
Wow.
And 7-Up. And of course, so that's, I would kind of surreptitiously, "Oh, hey, so how you, what's it like?" How bad is that? Anyway, so what were we talking about?
That'll keep you thin, man. Oh man.
Oh, well, no kidding. And then it wasn't until Brutus and I went down and the drummer, Danny Smakovich, I think it was his name, I got to stay. He lived with his grandma, Baba.
Sure, Baba. Yeah.
Baba. And in 1 month, staying with him at Baba's place, I gained 20 pounds.
Of course.
Oh, it was phenomenal. Well, she would make a dinner for us before we'd go off to a gig, and she said, "Well, I wasn't sure if you'd like, ribs. So I've also done a chicken."
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you'd come home at night, and there'd be a note on the fridge saying, "Oh, there's a pie in the fridge or something." So you'd go in there, and there'd be an apple pie, and then she'd say, "Well, I wasn't sure if you would like apple pie, so there's also a pumpkin pie and a raspberry pie."
Oh wow.
That's great.
Oh, just
Can we go to Baba's house right now?
well, yeah. I
She's
think
probably not there
she's
anymore.
gone to
Yeah.
Chef's. What a dear woman. But yeah,
Wow.
suddenly, I put on some weight, and that was a good weight because I needed that. The weight I have now is I could probably do with a little less. So.
Well.
It's okay. It's just in the wrong place, When I was doing my Bachelor of Music, I took singing lessons, and because it was a course, and I thought, oh, this will be an easy A, because I can sing, and well, two things happened. One was he taped me, and I heard myself singing, and I've told this story before, but I was so upset. I thought I will never sing again.
Really?
I thought I sounded so terrible, and I walked off after the lesson down the mall to the car.
Oh wow.
Or where I was going, I was almost in tears, and then about 20 minutes into self-pity, I thought, well, you know what? I love singing, so I don't care if I sound horrible. I'm going to sing anyway. And anyway, yes. So anybody out there, don't ever listen to yourself.
That's true. Yeah.
In the early stages, Well, and I used to teach my choir kids. I said, well, and mind you, this is not good advice now, but I was saying, think about, you say, oh, I'm not a very good singer. Well, there are people like Bob Dylan and Neil Young who aren't exactly Pavarotti.
Right.
But they've had really good careers, and they've written songs that appeal to people and find resonance. So what the heck? And I used to suggest to my kids, if you've got, a particular unique sounding voice, go for it, because
totally,
that uniqueness is what'll get you noticed. Now, I sort of in today's market, that's not really good advice, because it seems like so many people, especially everybody's auto-tuned,
Well, that's true.
And so it's
Yeah.
like everything's sort of homogenized. Although if you check around, it sounds like an old guy. That rap is crap, and I just, the other day I was watching a kid. We watched the late shows because we're up late, and there was a kid called Jacob Collier.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Holy mackerel! It looked like he was really doing it. He played everything and sang everything in this video, and he was just omnicompetent. Just
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's remarkable talent. So I'd like to see that kid. I think he's out of England. I'd like to see him be huge because man, oh man.
I've been hearing that name a bit lately, so he's probably on his way.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So what years were you with Trooper then?
75 to 79.
So
Oh,
4
yeah, you
years.
were asking me how I got a long
Yeah.
time ago when the earth was green. There's some animals you've ever seen. Sorry.
That was an Irish Rovers reference right there.
Green alligators and long neck
Well
geese.
done, Todd. Yeah.
Yes. My first concert was the Irish Rovers.
You're kidding. Oh, well, there you go.
In northern Manitoba, I think.
Whoa. Well, see, that's the thing. Somebody said, "Oh, what are your influences?" And I said, "Well, every song I've ever heard."
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But I started to say, "Well, who's had the most effect on me?" Well, guys like Steve Winwood. I just loved his stuff. Well,
Absolutely.
and the best rock and roll song ever, "Give Me Some Lovin'."
Oh, the Spencer Davis Group.
Yeah,
Spencer
Yeah,
Davis.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a very young Steve Winwood, right?
Yeah.
That?
Oh yeah.
Like 15 or something crazy like that?
Yeah. Anyway, so to me, that's the quintessential, rock song of all time. Just the energy and
Totally.
And the organ.
the
And the organ.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you get introduced to the Hammond and all that kind of stuff? When does that kind of come into play?
I think in 3 or 4 years, I got tired of the Box Continental, and you had to have so I started out with a Hammond A because it was cheaper. It
Okay.
didn't have percussion. And then I made the mistake of this is too heavy. I'm going to try cutting it down, and I'll make it into 2 sections. And that was a good idea, but I didn't have the talent electronically to do it. So eventually I got a B3 and hauled that around for years and years. Ugh.
No, I can only
And
imagine.
you know what? I'll tell you though, I've still got it in the studio, and the one that was used on Raise a Little Hell. Oh, and I'll tell you a Hammond story. When we recorded Raise a Little Hell, I played the organ part. Oh no, not Raise a Little Hell. Sorry, Pretty Lady.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
So when I recorded that, I did one take on it, and Randy, back when it was producing, said, well, "That sounds great." And I said, "Well, do you want to do one more just in case?" And he said, "Yeah, okay, we can do another take." And I said, "Wait a second here. There's something wrong in here." I had cranked the preamp on it so much that I had actually welded the speaker cone. Basically, it catch on fire. So we couldn't do a second take because I had basically almost set fire to the whole Leslie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that sound is partly because I was in the process of blowing up the Leslie.
That's amazing.
What I have now in the studio, which is really cool, we're boring everybody except the people who are into B3
Gear.
Leslie speakers, but we don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
It's important to get it out there.
Yeah, exactly.
When the Leslie 145 or 147 has the horn, which goes when you put it on tremolo, which is the fast speed, there's a baffle that spins around in the bottom, and it sounds awful. It goes, and it's not a nice thing. So what I do is I have my standard Leslie 145, which I mic the horn, and then I can adjust the speed on that fast or slow. And then I have an old solid state thing, and I don't even know what it's called, but it looks like an old stereo speaker system with where you'd have the turntable and all that stuff in there, and it's solid state. And I never take that off. I have it so I can have it on, turn it right off, or have it on corral, but I never crank the tremolo up on that. And I mic that for the bottom end.
Right,
and,
right.
and it's really cool. That organ went out on the last time it toured was in the BB King band.
Wow.
They rented it. I knew the guy that was bringing them into Vancouver, and he said, "Oh, they need a B3. Could they rent yours?" Yeah, okay. And I forget. They paid me a little bit, and I got tickets to the show.
There you go. That's kind of one of the things we talk about. Oh, hang on here. Did Frank finish his music degree or go off with the band?
I got my Bachelor of Music.
Wow.
And that's how you were able to teach later on in life, right?
Well, thank heavens I did, yeah, because when I decided what happened is things started to fall apart after Body Electric, and I was pretty discouraged with trying to make a living as a musician, and they had a 1 year postgraduate program to become a teacher, and that was the last time it was offered, and so I thought, got to do it. So I went back and did that teaching certification year, and if I hadn't had the Bachelor of Music, so yeah, I have one of my students who quit school just after grade 10. He says, "Oh, Mr. Ludwig, I'm gonna go on tour with the band." I said, "Well, good luck." But I said, if you can somehow, while you're doing that, finish off your courses just to get through your grade 12, you never know,
Right. Where were you when I was doing this?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
My fallback position is sleeping on your couch when this is all over. Hopefully you'll take me in.
Yeah, we got a couple. If you don't mind sharing it with 4 cats,
That's fine.
No.
That's fine. I'm doing that now.
Todd's a cat person.
Yeah, I'm a
Did
cat.
your students?
You see all that fresh meat? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if your students knew your pedigree, who was teaching them, and what you'd done, and that they had heard you singing on the radio probably inadvertently many times. Did that come up, or did?
Well, the word spread pretty quickly, but I'll tell you what, I'm not a nice person, but when I started teaching, my first school in Vancouver was David Thompson Secondary, and they probably weren't aware at that time so much. But what happened is an article came out in the Vancouver Sun or Province on me. I forget.
Oh, wow.
Because even though I was teaching, it's a funny thing. The world thinks that you just quit music and disappeared. But
Right.
what I did is I would, teach during the day, and then I would go off and I would do, jingle singing and I would do, and I eventually started working out of a studio where we were doing ads, commercials, and we were doing, music for films and little mini documentaries and things, and political parties. And so I was always doing music, sort of professional music on the side, but I had, a day gig.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, so this article came out in the paper, and then the next day in school, the kids came out, "Frank, such and such," and I just ignored them. And then all of a sudden they went, "Mr. Ludwig." I said, "Oh yes." "Did you have a question?" and very quickly, I was basically setting a boundary. I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm your teacher, and
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
Mr. L or Mr. Ludwig. And it was really funny because, and I said, "You can call me Frank when you graduate."
Sure. Yeah.
That was the deal. And it was funny because the students that I work, closest with, I run into them now and then, and it's like they'd rather call me Mr. L.
That's so
all right.
cool, yeah.
Still, yeah.
I really like that,
Yeah.
That's so cool. One thing that we always talk about on this show when it comes to keyboards is because these days you can get all those sounds in one little keyboard. Back then when you were touring, what all did you have on stage? Because like back in the day it was like this guy doing all this kind of like a Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman kind of world.
Well, and the big challenge was, I went through it. I was Self-Portrait was the band with the Vox Supercontinental.
Right.
By the time I got into a band called Crosstown Bus, I had the B3, and I had a clavinet on top of that, which was supposed to be the piano.
Sure. Okay.
That's kind of it. And then later on, I got a thing, and I wish I knew what it was, but it was the first electrified upright piano, and it would sit on top of the B3. The keyboard would go on top of the keyboard, and it was very cool because it had real strings, but it had sort of plastic components. So they tended to break a little bit, but that was the best sound that anybody had. And I actually had that when I first went into Trooper.
Crazy.
And it was better than what anybody else really had out there on the road. And what was kind of cool, in Crosstown Bus, we did a suite called it was inspired by the Collector's, What Love Suite. We did a song called about a 20-minute song called Welcome to North America. And if I can remember it here, welcome to North America.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of neat, right? And in the middle, our lead singer was quite good conga player. We did a whole thing where we just a big percussion breakdown.
Cool.
But in that thing, what had happened is there was just what's that little fiberboard or whatever front on this piano, and we were opening for Crowbar. Oh, what a feeling! What a
rush. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
3 times. 5 times. But one night, just as a joke, we did 100 times. I feel all right. Just
so trying to count 100 times. Yeah.
I think we did 101.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and a bunch of Dalmatians came running.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, full circle.
So we were playing Kamloops, and they flew. Crowbar flew into Kamloops because they were big shots, and they were using our gear. And Kelly J, I think, was the keyboard player for Crowbar, is playing. And they start describing. Apparently, they almost crash landed. It was really scary. They dropped.
Oh boy!
Down. And so he's describing this frightening event that they just had, and he's going, they came down, and they came down, and he's doing this on my poor light little keyboard, really, and I'm sitting in the audience going, no, please don't. Anyway, somehow in all this, the front little bit of wood got broken, and I replaced it, or I left it open, and I would in the middle of in the middle of the Welcome to North America, I would hold the pedal, I would go around the front, and I would actually play the strings like a harp. Ding, 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 ding,
cool.
ding, 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 ding.
Cool.
Which was really cool, right? Yeah. It's kind of like, what do you call that? There was a thing where people would take grand pianos and they would put tacks on them and things. It was not music concrete. I used to know if I had really paid attention while I finished that Bachelor of Music, I would.
Like the old saloon style kind of.
Yeah. No, there's a special name for. Not a tack piano.
Tack piano. Yep, exactly.
Tack piano. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, maybe
something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, that might have been it.
Yeah. Right.
I thought you didn't know anything about keyboards, you guys.
We did. I love keyboards.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a
message? Someone said Brian Allen says, "Hey, Toque's looking for a keyboard player, Frank." Someone just commented. We are.
There you go. We're taking you out of retirement. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you don't retire. I mean, I do. I'm doing music about 8 hours a day at least now.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Well, that's a great thing about it. It's like I look at some of my friends who are, a lot more cool in school because they were the jocks, and of course, once they get past about 30, they've let themselves go or something has happened, or they just can't do it. And the great thing about music is you can redo it. Right?
Of course, yeah.
So it's lifelong learning, we call it in the school.
That's true, yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool. And I conduct a Vancouver concert. Well, I haven't since COVID, but I conduct the Vancouver concert band, and this past year we had over 70 members.
Wow,
and
that's
the
cool.
nicest people. And then we go out and we play old folks' homes and stuff. And
That's
we
so cool.
we do a lot of big band stuff and a mixture of things. And it's just, just some great stuff. Leroy Anderson. I know that, names like that mean anything, but, what was the other, Begin the Begin, there's just really cool rhythm stuff. And,
Cool.
And big band stuff. So really fun to conduct and as I say, just nice people. And it's really neat in this last year and a half of it before COVID. we had I guess it would be 2 years ago and my grandson and granddaughter were, I guess they were about 14. And we were about to do a concert, and my really fine tuba player said, "Oh, I got to travel on business. I'll be out of the country. I don't think I can make it back in time." So I asked my grandson to sit in, and he came to one rehearsal, and then he sat in on the concert. And I have a lead trumpet player who's got a Bachelor of Music and really not only a fine musician, he was also the president of the Canadian Chefs Association because he ran a restaurant. Anyway, he came up afterwards. He said, "Jesus, that kid's blowing the whole trumpet section out of the water." Anyway, so he had so much fun. And my granddaughter plays bass clarinet, and my grandson on tuba. And they had so much fun in our band because, well, they were both in the Richmond Honor Band, but the stuff we play is a lot more advanced, a lot more fun, and playing with really good musicians. And they said, could we join the band next year? So that in grade, I guess it was grade 10 and the start of grade 11, they were doing their school band, they were doing the honor band, Richmond Honor Band, and they were in what they call Grandpa's Band. and the cool thing about that was that because they needed a ride from Richmond into Vancouver every Wednesday night, my son said, "Well, I might as well bring my flute and play." And so I get my son, grandson, and granddaughter in Grandpa's Band, and that's so cool. And the great thing, of course, my son is, he has a master's in composition and
wow.
He's a flautist. he's so good. They call him a flautist. Well, and I would, in a community band, you get all sorts of different levels, and I'd have about 8 flutes in every given year, and all 8 of them combined would make the sound of one really good flautist. And so when my son came in and sat in on flute, it was like, oh, I can hear the flute section. And the first time he played, the rest of the flutes just kind of went. That's what a flute sounds like, right?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, he started, working with them, and it's really, all of a sudden I could hear, if there was 2 flute parts, I could hear both parts, and so having him there, what a great resource. And it's just
wow, what a musical family. That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Pretty fun. Yeah. So COVID kind of put the kibosh. So we're hoping to get back in September, and they'll be back in Grandpa's Band, I hope.
Put the kibosh on a great many things, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure did.
We're not qualified. I'm not qualified to be in Grandpa's Band. I really don't. I don't think I would. I think you'd probably give me the elbow, as they say.
So we gotta. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. We've had a couple of people who actually have almost started playing, but they were motivated to work. And I just said, okay, play the whole notes.
There you go.
When you're ready to play half notes, move on up. And a couple of those people, by the time, second or third year, and sometimes they'll take a private lesson and stuff, lessons and stuff, are playing really, at least about a grade 12 high school band level, back in the day when high school bands.
Yeah, right.
Frank, I was in that band. I loved it. I was in junior high, concert and jazz band, and high school. And I went on band trips every year. We used to go to those, contests where the band competes, in Toronto against them, and you get adjudicated and all that stuff. I loved all that. That's some of my best music, vocabulary I got.
What were you playing in those days, Fitz?
Well, I was percussion, but it covered. Remember, percussion includes xylophone and glockenspiel, which are melody instruments, and timpani, which had a lot of, it wasn't just snare drum. And I never wanted to play just snare drum, the bass drum.
Yeah, just a cymbal guy. I could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to tell you about cymbals in high school band. Dave Sinclair, the late Dave Sinclair, was a wonderful guitar player. Played with Katie Lang at one point. And after that, who did the big women's tour? Sarah McLachlan. Played with Sarah McLachlan. Played with Body Electric, obviously, with me, and I'd known for years. And he told me that in high school band he played the crash cymbals, and he said what he would do. He'd be in the back row, and he learned to just gently do it, so it would cause a cushion of air to go, and it would knock the music off the kid in front music stand.
The trumpet player.
So long flicking the music off everybody's stand.
That's great.
The other thing about crash cymbal too is, I don't know if you ever saw the Far Side cartoon where the guy's holding up one big crash cymbal. He's looking intently at the music. This time I will not screw up. This time I will not screw up. And of course, he's forgotten that the second crash cymbal screw up.
Tom eventually screwed up.
Yes.
Frank, I have to admit, during high school, and because I grew up playing piano like yourself, I was always a melody instrument guy. And by the time high school band and whatnot, and I was, teenager, a little bit cocky, but still a good student. But the teacher would go around with the little tuner, right? And everybody had to get in tune. So you go through the saxophones and the trumpets, and everybody's getting a little, the reed instruments.
Are you suggesting saxophones can actually tune?
Well, I'm just saying, like, he's getting the whole band in, you know what I'm saying. And
I'm just insulting the saxophones.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing.
Sorry.
But
Go ahead.
I used to kind of get mad if it wasn't quite okay. Well, they're kind of in tune. It used to drive me nuts because I guess I have perfect pitch, but I would get a little bit wound up with the teacher, like, that guy's still out of tune, and they'd be like, Fitz, out of the room. And my good teacher, Mr. Ross Shaver, who's an excellent band director. He used to give me a hard time because I would be a little bit of a shitster in the back there. The percussion guy telling him, "Hey, that guy's not in tune yet." But,
that's funny because when I was a little kid, my parents would have the piano tuned, and I'd be around the corner and said, "It's flat,"
right?
And my
Frank, did you have was your piano the living room piano, like the all embodied, like everybody had a piano in their house, and that's where your piano lessons were and everything?
But I got to tell you, the one I still have it. When my parents passed on, I kept that piano, and it's on Pender Island, and it's a Nordheimer, and it's the best sounding, just home upright. It's the one with quite a tall back on it, and ours is beautiful, dark, almost, I don't know if it's cherry wood, and I thought. That's what I got to play growing up on it, and it was wonderful piano. And I thought, and I'd played, Mason and Reich and all these other pianos, and they just were
German brands,
dogs by comparison. And then one time our band was playing at a church hall for some. It was just a rehearsal, but we had lost our space in the school because of an event, and we went into this church, and there was a piano there. And it was mahogany, really kind of unattractive. But when I had played it, it was like, this sounds as good as my growing up piano. And
Nordheimer,
it was a Nordheimer. Yeah.
There you
go. So you knew.
I never heard of that one before.
We got a question for you from Rick Shermack. We all want to know, Frank, what's the story why you left Trooper when they were in their prime?
Well, it boils down to why bands break up generally.
Right.
Personalities. When you first form a band, it's these 5 musketeers. It's all for one, one for all. And when Trooper was fortunate enough, after I joined them, we went in the studio, and 2 for the Show became a hit. And we were all just thrilled. The band's starting to happen. They'd had a little bit of airplay on the first album before I joined them with good old General Hand Grenade and Baby Won't You Please Come Home. But 2 for the Show really took off, and life was good. And then what happens, you get into the next album and you realize that you're all still making $75 a week, but the songwriter is now driving a brand new car.
Right.
And that's okay too. That's okay. But then what happens is you say, well, I've got a song here called Round Round We Go, and you can't get the time of day in the band. And the only reason Round Round We Go ever made it was actually Ray got in a small car accident. And Smitty phoned me up. He said, Ray's been hurt, and it's going to be, a week or so before he can come back to rehearsal. Do you think we should rehearse? I said, well, we're supposed to go in the studio for Knock 'Em Dead. Or for Thick as Thieves. I guess we should maybe tighten some stuff up. So the rest of us got together. We rehearsed the stuff we needed to rehearse, and it at some point it was like, well, we've done everything we need to do. We got a bit of time left here. What do you want to do? I said, well, I've got this song called Round, Round We Go. And as I'm teaching it to them, Randy Bachman happened to drop by the rehearsal studio. I said, what's that song? I said, oh, it's something Frank wrote. So that song made it onto the album. And there was another song that I had written. I think it was called Fine Mess. This is a fine mess you've gotten us into. And we also learned that, and that was in the running. And of course, nowadays on a CD, you can have 17 songs. In those days, you could only have 10 songs. If you had more than 10 3.5-minute songs, the grooves on the vinyl get too close together and the fidelity disappears on you. So you really only want to have about 10 songs. So suddenly, knowing that there's money involved, there can be infighting. And it's really foolish, because if you get a hit, the band does better on tour. And so it comes down to kind of greed and on some people's parts. And I suppose, well, yeah, mostly that. So we started getting into a thing where it's like, oh, Frank. Oh, so we get into the sessions with Round, Round We Go. And I had just finished singing it. And Smitty comes out to me, we're at Mushroom. And he says, Frank, do you think, oh, well, and I'll give you an idea, Moment That It Takes. Donnie and Tommy had written this song, and Smitty and I had helped them craft it quite a bit. And they went to Ray and said, would you sing our song? And he said, oh, well, it'll be so much better if you sing it, because you're closer to the song, and it'll it'll have more resonance, sort of thing, if you sing it, which sounds logical. But what it really means is, I know that your song won't get the time of day if I don't sing it. So they came to me and said, Frank, would you sing Moment That It Takes? I said, oh, sure. So anyway, I just finished Round We Go in Mushroom. And Smitty comes out, he says, so Randy wants to know, do you think Moment That It Takes should be on the album? I said, well, yeah, of course. It'd be really nice for Donnie and Tommy to have a song on the album. And so Smitty walks back into the control room, and I hear him say to Randy, yeah, Frank says Moment That It Takes is on, Fine Mess is off.
Okay.
And it was like, I didn't think this was an either or. It was going to cost me a song on the album, and how come it was a choice between those two, right?
That's because you were singing both songs? Is that?
I was singing. Well, no, it was just a matter of, if there's 10 songs and you're used to getting 9 of them, and suddenly you only get 7. So it started to get, so after that was, and then it would be on tour. I can remember being in the Maritimes, and Ray we were in the motel room in somewhere, I don't know if it's Halifax or something like that, and Ray is doing a radio interview. And what happened is when Raise a Little Hell and Round Round, they weren't sure which one to do. So what happened is they both were put out as singles. In fact, some of them were done with double-sided, Round Round and Raise a Little Hell. And the heavy rock stations would play Raise a Little Hell, and the not quite so heavy stations would play Round Round We Go. And that's a good thing, right? But anyway, so at some point in the conversation, I don't know if you had a speakerphone or we could just hear, but the radio guy says, oh, your song just broke the top 10. And Ray said, oh, which song? And he said, oh, Round Round We Go. And Ray went, shit.
Oh.
And I just looked at him for a minute, and I said, and I waited till the call ended. I said, Ray, when Two for the Show became top 10, we were all thrilled. We didn't stop to think, oh, Ray's going to make all the money. We thought, this is great for the band, and great. I said, I'm really saddened that you don't have the same attitude towards us having a hit with Round Round We Go. So by the time we get into Flying Colors, it was war. And I went to Ray and Brian, who were basically co-writing, everything together. I said, look, why don't we just split everything 5 ways? And they, oh, Tommy and Donnie don't do anything. I said, well, you know, when we do Raise Little Hell, and Tommy goes, brah, boom, boom, brah, boom, boom, Raise Little Hell. I said, that gets all the heavy rockers going, hey, it's not just a ballad band, 2 for the show, Pretty Lady. These guys rock, you know. I said, that's just as important in the song and us having a career. So, you know, why don't, no, they don't, no, we're not going to do that. So I finally said, okay. So I went to Tommy and Donnie. I said, look, I've got some new songs here that I've written. We're gonna split it 3 ways. And of course, what happened then when it comes to choosing the songs, at that point, suddenly Ray and Brian are 2 votes, and Tommy, Donnie, and Frank are 3 votes. So what Ray and Brian did is they went to Sam Feldman, manager extraordinaire. He was a good doorman at the Daisy.
Okay.
And the reason I say this so vehemently is if he had been a good manager, he would have got his feet wet and got in there and said, look, guys, we got to come to some sort of solution here. You know, let's keep it together. We got a good thing going. Let's resolve this. But he said, no, he gets a vote with Ray and Brian. So now it's 3 against 3. So at that point, I said, look, let's just record all the songs, send them all to MCA. They can pick the 10 they like. There it is. We don't have to fight over this. Well, they knew damn well that wasn't a good idea for them because I was writing some decent songs.
Right.
So what they did is they said, well, we think our road manager should also have a vote. That's Randy Burswick. So it's like, so now it's 4 for them against 3 of us. And what I found out after I left was that they cut Randy Burswick in for 5% of the action.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
It's like a mob deal or something.
So his vote
Well, it just
turned into money.
Okay, and then and of course now you guys got a first here because I have kind of avoided talking about this because it is water under the bridge. But you see the whole thing, and it stemmed even earlier, like for instance in Pretty Lady, the song they had, and I actually have a demo somewhere, which out of courtesy to them, I've never released to anybody, with the original song that they wrote when they were in Winter's Green. Pretty lady, da da da, da 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 da, da da da, and the thing I hate the most is how, ow, 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 which to me is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So I wrote this. Etc. So I wrote that, right?
Wow.
Pretty Lady. They call that arranging.
Oh.
They don't call that songwriting. It's like,
I don't know.
There's a whole whack of chords there that aren't the 3 chords you wrote.
Yeah.
And now that brings me back as everything.
And it's a signature, isn't it? It's a signature to the start of that song.
It was the difference between the first album and an album that has.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So even that I kind of, I guess I arranged 2 for the show. So it was like, okay. What did I? You had asked Corey. You asked a question a long time ago, and I never really answered it. And I almost got to it. Oh well, and I flashed on it, and now it's gone again.
No problem. We are all mesmerized by the
UFOs. It's those UFOs that are floating out there, you know.
Too many UFOs. Too distracting.
You were bringing up something that you really don't touch on. Is that you finished that thought?
We'll just. So basically, it was War of the Worlds for Flying Colors. So as Ray has correctly pointed out, side A is basically, Ray and Brian, which he considers Trooper, and side B was Frank Ludwig's offerings with Tommy and Donnie. And and here's the other thing, that is kind of galling. Boy, you guys are letting me hear. I get this off.
It's really the Diane Walters show, or
really
Barbara Walters show.
Yeah.
Diane Sawyer. Diane
Sawyer, Barbara Walters. Yeah.
All those people. For instance, Ray and Brian, brought in a country song, and it just wasn't working. And we tried it. The aliens are coming. And we tried about 12 different ways. And finally, I said, look, Tommy, give me a kind of a white man's reggae beat. And so I went.
Oh, okay.
We're here for a good time, right?
Sure,
And that became Here for a Good Time. And so it's like 100%, we, meaning everybody in the band, worked to make the best songs we could out of Pretty Lady, out of Two for the Show, out of everything. But the same wasn't reciprocated. So the solution for that was when I brought in the songs for Flying Colors, they were ready to go. Now I have to say, in fairness, Smitty was pretty open to contributing, and the other thing, I understand, for Ray, I mean, there was one point when we're going to do a TV show, and Round Round We Go Ahead, and we're going to get to do 2 songs, and so we're going to do Ray's Little Hell as one song, and Round Round We Go as the other, and Ray said, well, what am I going to do if we do Round Round We Go? And normally I would have said, well, the same thing, Paige, or who was the lead singer for Toto. I said, when Steve Lukather sings all the hits, what does he do? So it's like, and so I just said, oh, play tambourine, but so he fought and we didn't do that song. We did do it on one TV show because I have it somewhere on my website. So I must have got to do it somewhere. But so that was the kind of deal. And I'll tell you, and very few people know this story. This will be a first, guys. And what was the guy's name I hope he's still with us, because I'm a long-winded old man. But it might as well be out there. A couple of things. When Flying Colors came out, I didn't realize, but they were going to release Quiet Desperation as the first single. And that, I think, is actually one of my best songs that I've ever written. And the reason I like it is because it implies a conversation. And it really is just it's a scene, right? Because it started the day at 5:30 this morning, still half asleep, reached toward her pillow, no one there. She left before daybreak, a brief kiss on the cheek, introducing heartache. A flip of her hair as she walked out the door. I won't see her anymore. But the most telling thing about this psychologically is the second verse. She wants to be the world's finest actress. Or did she say a famous ballerina? Either way, I'm still left here. And what that says is he's so out of touch with her needs and what she needs to feel fulfilled that he doesn't even know if she wanted to be an actress or if she wanted to be a draftsperson or whatever. So he's just a loser, right? So I lyrically, that song. Anyway, so that was going to be the first single. So of course that didn't happen because I had quit right at that time. But the other thing that happened, which I didn't realize, I went and worked. Randy Bachman had, first of all, Randy got dumped. Ray decided we didn't want Randy as a producer anymore, which is the most ungrateful thing you can imagine. If it wasn't for Randy Bachman, Trooper would have never got out of the garage. That's reality. And and so it's like, and to turn around and say, well, you're not going to be our producer anymore. And we got a guy who had been an engineer in LA who had never produced anything before, and it was a disaster. but we managed to get the album out anyway. But anyway, what I didn't realize is so I go to work. Randy had said, if you're ever so unhappy you can't stand Trooper anymore, I'd love to have you come and work with me. And when he said that, I said, how about now? yeah, good. Yeah, I'll do that now. Well, and it was kind of like, okay, Trooper's kind of at the top of the heap in Canada, but so what? We weren't going to break the U.S. So anyway, so I went to work with Randy. And I'll tell you, and part of this also, this is sounding like a really whiny sort of thing on my part, but with Hot Shots, MCA, and I've seen online people say, yeah, MCA really screwed the whatever on Trooper. No, they didn't. Here's what happened. MCA decided, US, that with Hot Shots, this could be like our first single, our first album.
Sure.
We've never broken the US. Let's treat Hot Shots as our first album, Trooper's first album in the US, and which is wonderful. And they decided they wanted the first single to be Round, Round We Go. I didn't know this because what they had conveyed this to our brilliant manager, Sam Feldman. And of course, Ray and Smitty had screaming hysterics. And so they went, Sam. So Sam told MCA US, no, you can't release Round We Go as the first single. It's got to be, one of the others. And MCA US basically said, if you don't think we know our market, and you don't have enough respect for us to think we know what we're doing, we've had enough. And they subsequently dropped Trooper.
Wow. What
I didn't realize, because Graham Waymark was Randy Bachman's manager by this time. He had been their BTO as financial kind of guru, and Randy was the manager. They wanted me to work with Randy so badly that they didn't tell me at the time that MCA was going to drop Trooper that they were going to sign me to a solo deal.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And I eventually found out, Randy, I guess he must have had a little guilt conscience or something, would say, oh, hey, Frank, that song you've got, such and such, it doesn't really fit with Iron Horse, but, we should do a solo album for you. I'd be like, oh, okay. Randy, you're such a great guy, Randy. Anyway, and then by the time we put together that, and Graham went to whoever, they didn't want me as a solo deal or whatever. So, such as life.
But you did go on to have a solo sort of project, and that kind of, you were fronting Body Electric after that. Is that when that happened?
Well, I worked with Randy for, I forget how long, maybe a year and a half or 2 years, maybe. I don't really know. And I have to say, it was just a wonderful collaboration. We both came up loving the Beatles. We both came up loving Roy Orbison. And there's a song on the Iron Horse album, if I can, but I'm hurting inside, and my eyes can't see from tears that I cried. And I keep going, it's not over, life is just anyway. I would sing at chest, but then I would distort my mic and stuff. And also, it's working too hard. I might break a sweat. I don't want to do that. Anyway, so that was based on a Roy Orbison thing, and we had another song that never got released, called In Anger, which I would tend to do the lyrics. It's funny, Randy and I would get together. He said, come on, let's spend a day writing some songs. So I'd go down to his place, and one day we did it at the house in Linden, not the mansion, just outside of Linden. And we would do what he called, we would write 3 or 4 songs. Well, what that meant was we would come up with a chorus hook, and we would come up with maybe a verse of lyrics that led into, that told the story, set up the chorus hook. And that would be writing a song. And of course, he'd have just some wonderful guitar thing involved. And then I'd get a call, 3 weeks later on a Sunday, Frank, you remember that song In Anger? Yeah. Said, well, let's record that tomorrow. I got Chris Layton and Ron Foose coming up from Seattle tomorrow, and be like, okay, and it'd be like, geez, there's only one verse, and I'd be up till like 3 a.m. writing 2 more verses for it. But anyway, yeah, there was a song called In Anger, which was very much, well, we did 2 sets of lyrics on that and recorded 2 versions of it. But the one was very sort of Roy Orbison, overly dramatic. I run to the river, where there's only a handkerchief by the shore. So the inference is that she committed suicide. And the chorus is me. We talk too fast in anger, things we didn't mean in anger. Now we can't go back on the things we said. In the heat of the moment I fled in anger. It's a song I'm actually thinking of redoing, because
you should totally should do that.
Yeah. And then the verse, listen, please, I'm begging you. Don't you see that I'm sorry too? What makes you think that people keep on punishing me?
That's great.
It really rocks, and although I've been thinking of doing it maybe a little more low key, but we wrote some great songs together.
Nice.
And then what happened is Randy was going through a lot. He was in the process of getting a divorce from his first wife, which really played heavily into sort of the vibe of Everything Is Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And we had started to get ready to go and tour to support that album, and we're starting to get a little play on What's Your Hurry, Darling? You know that, I don't know if you know that song.
No.
Every night when I'm away from your side, all the tears that I cried, when I think how hard we tried, what's your hurry, darling? Take it easy, it's gonna be all right. What's your hurry, darling? Take it easy, it's gonna be all right. It was written by Carl Wilson and Randy.
That's
Wilson,
right, yeah. From the Beach Boys, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Carl Wilson, one night, and this was before, the day of phones. I wish I'd had a recorder or something. We went down below the studio part in Randy, the barn studio, and we're downstairs. There's a couch there, and we're just sitting around in the evening. And Carl Wilson brings out a guitar, and he starts singing songs that never made it onto Beach Boys albums that he'd written.
Wow.
And just gorgeous melodies and really nice lyrics. And it's like, oh, these are awesome. And it's like, oh, I just wish I'd had a tape recorder going, or a video camera.
Totally, yeah.
He's gone now, right? So,
of course, yeah.
Anyway, so after a couple of years with whatever the time was with Randy, which was, what a great guitar player, and this is what I used to, so many guitar players. Well, I'll give you an example. On the Flying Colors album, Howard Steele, because he wanted to ingratiate himself with everybody in LA and everywhere, without talking to us, replaced one of Smitty's solos. And one of the things, and I think I'd been involved in that process with Randy right from Two for the Show. Randy and I, maneuvered Smitty to do a melodic solo. Da 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 da. Because to me, a solo that actually fits into the mood of the thing, and Randy's the best at that. If you think about it, I call them signature solos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you we could all go bum 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 dum bum bum.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. It's like American Woman.
One of the all-time greats. Yeah.
Yeah, just and because it's singable, it's melodic, and it breathes. One of the things I used to teach my violinists is like in string class, it's like you have the ability to play without breathing, but I said then your playing doesn't breathe. So lift,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
and,
that's good.
and I do the same thing with my band with saxophones. Pick on them again. You know, I'll say, how would you sing that line? And I give an example. I'll say, okay, here's your sax line. Ba-dee-da da 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 dum ba-da-dum ba-da-dee-dum ba-da-dee-dum ba-da-dee-da da da dum ba-da-dee-da dum da-da-da-da-da-da.
no space to breathe.
Yeah, so put 2 beats of rest.
Yeah.
I used to tell my beginning bands, which people would ask me, you know, you're such a good musician. How can you stand doing beginner band? I said that it's such a wonderful thing because these kids come in and they can't play a single note on day one. And then by the end of the year, they can play at least 12 notes in time and in tune. And it's miraculous. And then you hear the same kid 4 years later in grade 11, 12 senior band. And they're playing real music and really good and musically, and it's just wonderful. So I love, you know, it's like seeing the birth of the blues.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so the saxophone, I'd say, you know, breathe and put you know in your solo. So anyway, so back to the Howard Steele gets Steve Lukather to replace one of Smitty's solos, and it was a typical Smitty solo that had a melodic.
Where did you guys record that record?
Flying Colors in Edmonton at
wow.
forget the name. It was what was his name? The guy that owned it, quite a well known from the early days. I almost flashed on it. Yeah, you'll have to look it up. Anyway,
one of the Carroll brothers or something.
No. It's a much older, an older guy. Oh,
okay.
It's just under Holger Peterson, maybe.
Oh.
Okay. Probably a name you don't know even. But I think Holger Peterson. I'm guessing. Anyway, so between the time we've recorded it in Edmonton and the time we go to mix it in Criterion in Fort Lauderdale, he replaced Smitty. So he had Steve Lukather play on it. Now Steve Lukather is a god, guitar god, but he just wanked, and it was like, what technique, and it was awesome in the wankdom sense, but it had nothing to do with the song. And he probably just came in there, sure, I'll play on it, and then the part that really galled me was on Quiet Desperation. He got the keyboard player from Toto to replace my strings. And I had a thing, and you were talking, Corey, about, what equipment I used when I got the B3 came about. I also used, in the Trooper days, I had a thing called an Elka string synthesizer, which was a synthetic string unit.
Sure, yeah.
When it first came out, it was pretty cool, pretty close. It wasn't digital, of course. But what I had a guy, a technician, go in there and create a pitch thing. So what I would do in Quiet Desperation, instead of playing chords, I don't know if I got a string. Yeah, that's Arkansas, but instead of playing chords, I would dial up the string sound and I would play on one track, and I would adjust the vibrato, and then I would do the, in fact, not that much, right? And I would, so each in a 4 or a 3-part chord, each one would have its vibrato coming and going at different times. What we ended up on Quiet Desperation, when we finished recording it in Edmonton, it sounded pretty damn close to a real string section.
Wow.
And so what Howard did is he killed that and put in just a synth pad.
Okay.
You know, oh, maybe that's more 80s. I don't know. It was only 79 at the time, but but it was like, okay. And then he had blown through the budget so badly that when it came time to go do the mix in Criterion, there wasn't enough money left for the whole band to go. So essentially, surprisingly, Ray said, well, Smitty, why don't you go? And it was probably because he knew I would probably kill him. If we went together, I would end up having to kill him.
Makes for a great story, though.
It would.
That's a great soundbite for.
There's a Faulkner line where the dad brutalizes the kid, you know, horribly, but he would say, "But he did it without heat," and it was kind of like just because he had it coming in, because you know it wasn't out of anger or anything. It was just righteous to do so. So if I had killed him, it would have been righteously
without heat.
Without heat. Yeah. So Ray said, Smitty, you go from our camp, and Frank and Tommy and Donnie said, okay, Frank, you go from our camp. So Smitty and I go, and it's really funny because we're on the plane trip from we go to LA first, pick up Howard, and we're flying off to Fort Lauderdale. And Howard is like, you know, Frank, if you would just do a little, you learn to relax a little. You know, if you do a little cocaine, you just wouldn't be so uptight. and I said, Howard, you mean I'd be more amenable to or more amenable to things like what happened? We had one song where Howard, oh, don't panic. We're all sitting there with our arms out, and we've got segments of a song in 2-inch tape hanging from our arms, the whole band. There's all these teams, and we're going, you know, because he's decided he's going to change the arrangement. Okay, that's fine. So anyways, so he puts it all back together, and he says, see, I told you it would work out okay. And he plays it through, and yeah, see, isn't that great? And all the band, oh yeah. I said, could you play the second line of the second verse there? And, well, yeah, what's the problem? I said, well, there's about a half a beat missing. It sounds like there's like a half a kick drum. No. What, would you humor me and play it, right? So they play it. And sure enough, you know, there's this little, he had dropped. And anyway, so we had to take it all back, and we got our arms
Oh,
up.
God.
Oh my God.
Tape hanging there. And he finally found a piece of tape, and I don't know, 30 IPS or 60, I don't know how fast it goes, 60 IPS, about this much tape he had clipped off.
Oh my God.
But nobody else in the band, nor he could hear that, but I could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I said, yeah, maybe if I'd done a bit of coke, then I would have missed that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or not cared or whatever. Yeah.
So well, and to me, mellow, you know, the thought of me, I never have done coke because I'm such a hyper guy. Something like that, I would have just, I don't know,
Exploded. Yeah.
Yeah.
tried flying. Or
Amazing stories, Frank. We really appreciate.
We're gonna have to do a second part of this.
Yeah, totally. Like we haven't even covered half of what you've done, and
I never even got to. Didn't even get to Fort Lauderdale, where the truth comes out.
okay, let's hear that.
Oh.
All right,
well,
you
let's hear
baited
it.
us. You baited
I'll
us.
just to finish that story if you don't mind. So
Oh, yeah, please.
So we get there, and they're setting up for the mix, and the first day, and all of a sudden, Smitty and I come in, and we see all these guys playing on our songs. And Howard, what's going on? He says, "Oh, the Bee Gees are in here in Studio B or something." And I thought it'd be really great if and their backup band are all here because they were recording Andy Gibb, and he had a hit with it, and then he committed suicide, sadly. The younger brother of the Bee Gees they were recording his thing, and he was getting these guys to play on our album, and so he was replacing stuff that Trooper did, members, with all these different things, and I found out he was paying them triple scale, and we've already blown through the whole budget to a point where I had to put our hotel bill on my personal Visa so we could pay the bill to fly home, right?
Oh my God.
And so finally, Smitty and I, in total agreement, Howard, knock it off. No, the album's done. We do the mix.
Right.
You know. So it's just.
Oy vey.
Oh,
Wow.
Of course, that triple scale that he's paying is coming out of your pocket,
Yeah.
one way or another.
Well, oh yeah, absolutely, and
Yeah.
we didn't have it. He'd already gone through the whole budget. At one point, there was a big. Oh, I'll save it for another time if you like.
Yeah. Your all your stories though, it's not like the music industry has changed at all. It's just sort of like this chicanery carries on until the end of time with these.
Have you interviewed Mick Della Vincenza?
No.
I got
Oh.
interviewed by him recently, but I thought he would be a great guest for the show as
He's
well.
a really good guy, and
That would be
if
great.
So he
just
plays in
had-
Cease and Desist with Mark LaFrance,
That's
and
right.
he also played in Shama, and
well, the Shama trauma story would really support everything I've said about Sam Feldman and Randy Burrs, all those names that I've mentioned, somewhat askance. Yeah, boy, oh boy, you hear the story of Shama / trauma, and it's like, oh, there they go again, because they had such potential.
Totally.
Yeah, I know. It's such a I mean, it's that thing. This business is just it's a vicious game. It's a tough one. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
We do it because we love it, and then
But we do it because we love it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you could. It's a little better now.
We're stupid.
Yeah. It's a little better now because there's no money to make in it as far as publishing and everything goes. So
That's true, right?
It kind of helps with some of the fighting. Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
And you can get more songs on the CD. And
Yeah,
that's
when,
true,
when you're traveling, what scares me is when I hear about what people are making in the clubs these days. It's the same money as we made in the 70s.
Right.
And the only thing is, instead of being 5 nights a week, it's for 3 nights a week. Like that's any compensation. You can't live on. So I don't know how anybody survives.
No.
Just, everybody's
do it.
like, can't wait to get back on tour. It's like, really? Who makes money on that? And very, very quickly, we would make money in Halifax, and then to keep us busy during the week, we would play Truro and we would play Lunenburg, and we could make it. We'd sell out, and we'd make $5,000 gross. And you know how much it cost us to keep our roadies and our trucks and everything on the road? $5,000. So we made nothing. But guess who got 15% of the gross? Our friend, the manager.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
So
That's
we
the
came
way it
home
goes.
back from a tour with nothing. Essentially, we paid our own salaries, kept everybody, paid for the weeks, and the stay-at-home guy bought himself a brand new Mercedes. So,
Amazing.
and that hasn't changed. I'm afraid.
No, that's the same story over and over and over.
Story. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
we're ending on a really negative note.
Not at all. Yeah, somehow we still love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, guess why? It's because of the music.
Yep,
Of course.
that's right.
Of course. I think
So
that's
Frank,
the
you want to
best
join our band? We all like each other. We actually get along great.
Yeah, but if
I
you
really do.
I can change that really quickly.
if you join our band,
Did I ever tell you the story? Did I ever tell you the story for the 4th time?
Yeah.
that old guy won't shut up, and that stupid story of Howard Steele. God, you gotta check him out.
if you
Well,
join,
only-
if you
Only
join,
if you're willing to share, 90% of the proceeds go to me, and you guys get the other 10%.
There you
wait
go.
a minute, let me think. We'll
I
get
know
back
I
to you on that.
Yeah, but see what I'm doing there
Yes.
is 10% wouldn't divide by 3,
Oh.
so it would create friction. So
Uh-oh,
it's
someone gets the
I'd be
majority.
able to maneuver one of you out, and then I'd get 91%.
There you go. That's the music business right there. There it
Fool
is.
me once, shame on you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If
Well,
you
thank
join
you
our
so
band, you have to make sure that you come into the room every time for rehearsal and go, darling, darling. Every time you say something, you have to start with that.
Darling.
Darling. Exactly.
Actually, I'll write the Doctor Who version. Dalek.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? Oh, here we go again. And we're going overtime. Do I get fined if I go overtime? Or do I get extra pay? I get
Yeah,
extra.
exactly.
Yeah.
Here you go. Back to you. So I never finished. Oh, geez, that's terrible. So when we're on tour, nothing to do, and so we would change up the names. So when we're writing up our set list, we'd say, oh, where will we do Shoe for the Toe?
Two for
And
the
so
show.
Round Round became the hamburger song. When are we going to do the hamburger song? Because it was ground round.
Oh, ground round.
Yeah. So when I wrote back to you, the lyrics go ground round and round. I'm down in downtown nowhere. And this is, remember I was saying the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
Right.
No trains, no planes. It's plain small change, ain't car fare. Sitting on the highway, it's pouring rain. There isn't a dry way to go. But anyway, that whole thing of a ground round and round, I'm down in downtown nowhere was all that onomatopoeia, if that's the correct term for that.
I love it.
From the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
We've learned so much today.
Yes.
Well, me too. It's like I shouldn't talk so much.
Nah, baby, don't talk like that. But thanks so much.
Story.
We gotta get on with the day. But yeah, well, that was awesome. Thanks so much, Frank. We're gonna have to do like a second, maybe a third part of this.
No
Be like the return of Frank Ludwig.
I'm around still. God willing,
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
guys, and good luck with everything. And we will. I'll be talking about you guys behind your back on one of our podcasts.
I appreciate that. That'd be
Hope
great.
to launch real soon. And it's a different kind of deal because we are posting it, we're able to put little historical clips. And one of the people we interviewed was legendary broadcaster Red Robinson, who was getting on in age and health and stuff. And it was just so neat because he has such a storied past. Meeting all the legends and so we put in little clips of those legends and stuff, so kind of we're a little more produced, which may or not be a good thing, but I'm kind of having fun doing that. So
For sure.
keeping busy, it keeps me out of jail.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the trick.
And good luck. Well, you guys are playing some great dates with great artists, so yeah, you've got something you enjoy. I guess old man advice would be enjoy every minute of it, of the good stuff. Try to laugh at the bad stuff and just look at it.
We're not that young, Frank. You might think we're a lot younger than we really are, but we've been doing this. I don't know how many years have we been all doing this? 30, 40 years ourselves. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know, but you have to remind yourself at all times to say, take the good and really appreciate it, because it goes by pretty quick. Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. When I look at Trooper, it was 5 years, and I look at coming out of university. I remember thinking, well, I'll give this a go until I'm as old as John Lennon is, because he was like 21, right? And it's like, well,
right, yeah.
that's really old. So by the time I was 21, it's like, well, John Lennon is now 25.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go for it all. What's that guy from the Stones, the Jagger guy?
Yeah.
So you keep going, but I added it all up, and it wasn't, the rock and roll part of it wasn't as long as I thought it was. It just seemed to take forever at the time, because you're just always on the road and suffering.
Yeah.
Oh, that was only a year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Anyway,
you're right.
keep
Try
talking.
and find positive. Okay.
Thank you so much, Frank Ludwig, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks for
everybody
hanging
in
with
the
us.
audience, for joining us.
Nice to
We
meet
will
you.
see you next week at the same bat time, but same bat channel.
Yes.
And peace
Next
out.
week, Gord Depp from the Spoons, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Excited
That's gonna
about
be
that.
Fun. Yeah. That'll be fun.
Yep.
Okay, gang. Thanks, Frank. Big love.
Bye-bye.
Love you guys.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Frank.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And cut.